What is up, Waffle Gang? I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're covering some r/relationships. If you'd like to skip the initial waffle, timestamps are in the description and along the timeline below. But if you are new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe and maybe that notification bell too, as it hugely helps out our channel. Now, just a huge thank you for taking the time out of your day to be here, and that's all I'm going to say for right now. Let's get straight into it. Now, our first story comes from a throwaway account. Husband 29 male has been in alcohol recovery for 5 years. Last night at a friend's party, he opened a beer like it was nothing. I told him I'd leave him if he ever drank again. Do I keep my word? I love my husband very much, but we went through some crazy shit with his drinking. Most of the time, he was a very silly drunk who was actually a lot of fun, but there were several occasions where he'd rage, get in fights, and drive drunk. He went into recovery about 5 years ago and has been an amazing man and husband ever since. When I started the recovery process with him, I told him very clearly that I would leave him if he ever touched alcohol again. Last night we went to a UFC pay-per-view at a friend's house. It was a typical guys watch TV, girls in the kitchen talking. The host had a setup like a trough with ice that was filled with beer. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my husband very casually go up to the trough, get a beer and sit back down and start drinking it. It was a flashback to all those awful nights we spent with his addiction. I know to never get in a discussion with him when he's drinking, even one, but I did watch him the rest of the night and he didn't have any more. I have to be honest that in the past even a single beer would have led to a blackout, so at least in this instance he controlled himself. I stayed up sleepless all night. I swore to myself I'd leave instantly if he ever drank again. I feel so much shame for even being here, knowing what he went through with his drinking. At the same time, do I throw away everything for what appeared to be one absent-minded beer? He had to work today, so he's up and out of the house, and I haven't had a chance to talk to him. It's that conversation I'm dreading. What should I do here? And we're going to head straight to the comments with this one, with Disappearing Cookie saying, if he's casually drinking beer right in front of you, he might already be drinking elsewhere. It doesn't look like someone who's had his first drink in 5 years after fighting so hard. And Make Vent says, I remember my husband was sober for a year, then had just one drink, and it ended up being a whole another year of bullshit before he got clean again. Edit, not saying that this is true for everyone, just sharing my experience. And Peach Grill also replies to this saying, same with my ex, I got furious at him at his nephew's baptism because he broke his sobriety. He thought I overreacted. I think his family did too, but it triggered him to drink again to the point of pancreatitis. Alcoholics cannot go back to casual drinking. I think the fact that it was so casual likely means he's already been drinking too. Breaking sobriety should be a huge deal. And Vifreya says, that is not exactly true. I'd been sober for 5 years after having spent time in a clinic for recovering alcoholics. Then something terrible happened in my life in 2017 and I started again. But I did not fall back into my old pattern of drinking in the past 4 years. I still drink since I started again, but only occasionally, which is once or twice per month. Whereas before my sobriety I drank every day, starting around lunchtime. It does take a lot of willpower to keep myself from falling back into my old pattern, granted, but some alcoholics can go back to casual drinking. It's just very rare. But I have to say, it sounds like this is not his first beer since sobriety. The first alcoholic drink after sobriety hits hard. And Rainstorm says, I wish I could help. I saw my dad do that and it turned out to be a non-alcoholic beer, but he should have shown you there was no confusion. And Luke Dapp says, this is serious as hell and you should definitely talk to him, but I'd like to add a possibility, non-alcoholic beer. And Mindtaker says, what you should do depends on a few things. If you want boundaries to be taken seriously, you have no choice but to follow through. A boundary without specific consequence you set with it is a fake boundary. A bullshit boundary means you are 100% full of it with your boundaries. If this was a rule you made up in your head but never spoke out loud, this is more your call than if you said this out loud. One thing I will tell you, people in healthy relationships don't dread uncomfortable conversations. Sure, we don't want to have difficult, shitty talks, but if you're in a good relationship, there is nothing to dread, so that's a red flag. Here is my simple rule of thumb for all relationships. Love isn't special. Love isn't a tick in the pro column. I will dare to say that love isn't even a positive thing. Love is basic requirement for a committed relationship to exist, period. End of what love is good for. Whenever deciding what to do with your future, you do not use love as a factor. If something has to be present, then it has zero place in the math of what to do. When you decide you have to move, for example, how much time did you sit down and factor in how much breathable air is in that location? My guess is you don't spend a single fucking second on that factor. Why? Why do you not sit and agonize over the available oxygen levels at each location? Oh, that's right, because you need oxygen to fucking live. So because oxygen has to be there for you to survive, you decided not to factor it into the decision, since it has to be present for you to be there. Same with love. Love has to be there or you wouldn't be married, which renders love meaningless in your decisions. So do the math. Without love, whatever answer you come to will be the best answer for you. If you do the math, the guy ticks all the boxes and you love him, he is a keeper. If you do the math and the only reason you're considering staying is because I love him, then you are dumb and making a dumb choice every time. Good luck. Either way you go, I hope it works out for you. That's some great advice in there too. Now I turn this one to you guys. What do you think OP should do in this situation? Should they follow through with their boundaries or should they just try and talk the situation out? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Now our next story comes from a throwaway account. I'm 40 male in love with an escort, 25 female. 8 years ago, my wife passed away and I had a difficult time coping. Eventually I tried online dating but went nowhere. I started seeing an escort and she was amazing. We really connected on an emotional as well as physical level. I've seen her at least once a week for the past 5 years. I feel like we've grown close over this time and she's opened up to me as well. She told me her real name. I've been to her actual condo. She's told me her reasons for becoming an escort. We talk about her family and I've even taken her on vacation several times. We text daily, we've talked about her school and her career, and this is what is messing me up. I feel a strong connection, but I also realise it's her job and I'm paying her. The problem for me is that she's now done school and is ready to move back home to begin her career and quit being an escort. She told me all this during Christmas. She bought me a PlayStation 5 for Christmas. What the fuck? She said it was a thank you for being a great client all these years and she said she's going to miss me. She said that even though I was a client, I always made her feel special. She said she's going to miss venting to me and appreciated me always listening to her. She said she is planning on making the move this spring. I'm mentally preparing for it but don't know if I can handle it. I think I'm in love with her. I want to tell her all this. I want to tell her I love her and she means everything to me. I really think she has feelings too, but I don't know. Maybe she's just really good at her job. It's probably a long shot, but I'd love to be in a real relationship with her. Hell, I'd even relocate with her. Should I tell her I love her? I'm 40, no kids, I don't have a lot of close friends. All I have is my career. What do I have to lose? I don't know. Then again, if this is all just part of her job as an escort, I don't want to make her feel awkward. And I think you pretty much said it all in your last paragraph there is, what do you have to lose? She's going to move away anyway. There's probably a better way to put it than just coming out and saying, I love you, don't leave, like some romantic movie. But there is a way of expressing your feelings towards her in a different way, maybe just saying like you'd like to keep in contact or something like that maybe. But Kirat NYC says, hi, former sex worker here. As awkward as it can be, I think because in this case she's moving back home, you might as well be honest with her. But personally, I don't think I'd want a client to straight up tell me that they were in love. I'd phrase it more as, I realise you're very special to me and you're interested as well. I'd love to try dating for real, or something along those lines. Just be very prepared for the possibility of rejection. Escorts and sex workers are very, very good at making people, especially good clients, feel appreciated. And her actions like the PS5 could be literally just that. I've heard stories of girls falling in love with clients, and as rare as it is, it's not impossible. I wish you the best, OP. And Ease Lock says, I completely agree with this comment. As a fellow sex worker and escort, our lives and work revolve around making people feel liked and cared for. And while I understand it can be hard to differentiate what works and what's real emotion, as a customer it is very important to keep in mind that is work for us, and presumably her as well. But do tell her she's moving after all, but put it in a much better way than, I am in love with you and want a future with you. And Miriama says, you're in love with a person. She is at work when she is with you. Yes, she has been open with you, and I'm sure she genuinely likes you as a person, feels that you are safe and trustworthy, etc. But you can't fully know her because it is her job to be likable to you, and you see her regularly enough that she counts on having a good rapport with you. You don't have an equal exchange going on here. You don't have access to a genuine personality in its entirety. I think you should look inward and try to parse apart how much feelings for her are based on the fact that you have a relationship is inherently free of conflict and the more painful and confusing aspects of dating. Please don't take any of this as me trying to be unkind or diminish your feelings. It's understandable how you feel, and I have zero judgment. If it would make you feel more free, you should tell her your feelings, sure, but to me it sounds like she is trying to move forward with her life outside of this line of work, which is a boundary you must prepare yourself to respect. And Chris P says, don't tell her, ask her. If you just blurt out, I'm in love with you and don't want you to leave, that's likely to put a lot of emotional pressure on her that will make her just nope out of there. Just say to her that you'd like to try taking her out on a real date, not as a client. And if she rejects you, accept it and move on. And Baking and Bat says, hi, I used to be an escort. I think she probably has genuine feelings towards you, but not the same kind you have for her. She likely sees you as a dear friend and someone she cares about, but I don't think she's in love with you. I think if she was, she'd be comfortable telling you. We do build real relationships, real friendship, real moments sometimes. I've had clients I really liked as people and had fun with, but I never had romantic feelings for them. It happens, I know it does, but given the dynamic she would tell you. That's the direction this usually goes if it happens successfully. I'm sorry, but there's not really anything to do here. She's moving on. At that point, you'll have to accept that. Please do what you can to take care of yourself and find someone else to talk to. You sound like a good person and friend. Now, I turn to you guys for this one. It's a hard one. You can't really say much to it, really. But let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. Now, our next story comes from another throwaway account, of course. Brother's wife had an affair with me, but he won't believe that I didn't know. Everything feels like it's falling apart, and I don't want it to end this way. My older brother and I used to be close as kids, but we had different lives. Both had the same dad, but different mums. My mum was a junkie, so his mum used to let me stay with them often. Around my senior year of high school, I started falling into the same thing as my mum, and that fucked my relationship with him. I was an arsehole back then and basically took advantage of his and his mum's help, stole money from them for drugs, made them think I was getting help and needed money for rent. Not proud of what I did, and obviously I deserved it when they both cut me out of their lives. Was only 21 at the time, and for 3 years I was out of control with my drinking and getting high all the time. It was a really bad period in my life. Second time I OD'd, I started going to rehab. I'm 29, sober for 5 years, got my GED and working full time at a recycling plant. Over a year ago, I decided to reach out to my brother. Wanted to show him that I've changed my life around and wanted to reconnect with him because I know I fucked up in the past. My brother was willing to talk, and slowly we've been keeping in touch through Zoom, phone calls and texts. It's been so great having my brother back in my life. I know he still doesn't fully trust me, and I don't blame him. He's gotten married and has 2 kids, a girl and a boy ages 4 and 2. Still haven't met them because, like I said, I'm working on earning that trust, and he doesn't want them to know who I am just yet. Was never even shown a picture of them. That includes his wife, or soon to be ex-wife. But turns out she's the fucking lying piece of shit that I've hooked up with from time to time over the years. Met her years ago when I think I was 23 or 24. We took ecstasy together and hooked up at my buddy's house. We met again at another party 8 months later. From there we'd hook up every once in a while. But I never had a clue she was married. We went long periods without seeing each other, but I was busy with my job and working my programs and never thought anything of it. We were never anything serious. It was always about having sex and not seeing each other for months. Last time I saw her was close to 7 months ago. He found out last week. When he called me, I had no idea why he was so pissed off, and he told me everything. About how he found she had another phone hidden in the house, and he found texts she sent me. Then he'd confront her wanting to know who the guy was, and she admitted it was me. I don't know how much she told him, or if she's trying to throw me under the bus too. She knew all this time, since me and him started talking again, that I was his brother, and never said anything until she was caught. He was half yelling at me, half crying, that he couldn't believe I'd do this to him after all the shit he's done for me, and that I'm dead to him. No matter how many times I told him I didn't know it was her, he still didn't believe me. Eventually he hung up on me and all my calls are going to voicemail now. I've texted him a million times explaining everything and telling him I'm sorry, but now I'm not getting anything. I can't imagine how much he's hurting right now. I hate that I'm the one who's caused this. Now it's like I keep going back and thinking about why it never occurred to me that she probably was married with kids. Is it that I just didn't care to think about it? Would have never slept with a married woman, and now it looks like I fucked up my relationship with him for life. It just hurts to think about it. We were doing so well, building things back up and going back to how we used to be. Now I've hurt him again and I'm scared I'll never be able to see him or my niece and nephew ever. But Babsman23 says, I'm sure this isn't the response you want, but you're right, this might irrevocably change your relationship with your brother, and honestly, even if it's not your fault and you didn't know, I think you're just going to have to accept that. I think you should give him some time, at least a couple of weeks, to get over the initial shock of finding out his wife cheated on him, then reach out to him again and apologise, and say you'd like to explain if he'd be open to talking to you. You know what his wife has said, maybe she didn't throw you under the bus and was completely honest about keeping that info from you. Either way, you still fucked his wife and he might never get over that. And OP replies, it's not, but I know it's one that I need to hear. I'm just hoping with everything that he can find it in himself in the future to forgive me. I'll give him space right now since I'm sure it hurts and he's got his kids to think about. It just hurt too much to lose him again after everything. He's the only family I have and hope we can get to a better place. An alarming turnover says you've been hooking up with this lady for years. He has 2 kids that are 4 and 2. You could be the father of those kids and not him. You need to take a huge step back from this for a second and actually think about the situation, because it could be 10 times more fucked than you think right now, and you might have 2 children that you've never heard of being raised by your half brother. And Zucker42 says he has no reason to believe you, especially since you were an untrustworthy person in the past, and even if he were to believe you, he might not want to be around you simply because it's too painful. All you can do is keep maintaining the truth and hope that in time he realizes it. I would stop calling, texting, because it's basically harassment if you keep it up. Think about what you would want in a similar situation. Maybe try reaching out in a few months, but accept that he may never want a relationship with you again. Try not to beat yourself up too much. Sometimes other people can hurt your life through no fault of your own. Focus on what you can control. And the last Baslope says, would your buddy, whose house you first hooked up with her at, know whether or not you knew who she was? If so, maybe have him write an email to your brother on your behalf. Otherwise, give him some time and distance to process. For now, get into counselling to discuss this and everything else in your life. After you've worked through some of it, and after he's had time to process, ask your counsellor to help you word a letter/email to send to him that apologises and explains, and then leaves the ball in his court whether to respond. And OP replies, I'm not sure if she was already with my brother or not back then, but it wouldn't be possible to reach out to my buddy anyways. He was also my dealer and I basically cut contact with everyone from that life when I started doing rehab. And Alt account says, do not get back in touch. Do not reach out to a former dealer while in recovery. Is the dealer going to be a good reference on your bro's mind? And at a point where you're feeling what you're feeling, it's the worst time to open that gateway again. You have nothing to gain and everything to lose from trying this approach. I'd spend time instead making a timeline of events with her and maybe collecting old messages you may have exchanged. I'm so sorry, OP. She is an awful person. Sometimes other people's horrible actions ruins lives when it's undeserved. And Throwaway says, time is what he needs. There is no other way now. It's not your fault, but you should be prepared to never speak to your brother again. Sometimes bad things happen to good people. Whether you knew or not is irrelevant to him, as you still did it. Unknowingly breaking the law is still breaking the law. Shitty situation, but keep your life together in the meantime and hope to be able to reconnect with your brother in the future. Don't go back into drugs, as then you will never see him again. And Wrong Doctor says, just commenting because I didn't see this anywhere. But if you think from the perspective of someone that just found out his wife has been cheating on him, even if he didn't know the guy she was cheating with, he probably would hate that guy right now. Add to the fact that you're his brother, that he only recently got back in touch with, and he probably just doesn't know if he's coming or going or what to think. I would give him a few weeks and then maybe write him an email/letter, laying it all out from your perspective, and then leave it all up to him to decide what to do. I'm really sorry this happened after you worked so hard, but this isn't your fault, and please don't let it ruin any of your hard work you've done with yourself. Now, I turn this one to you guys. What do you think of this crazy situation? Let me know in the comments below. Now, once again, guys, thank you for being here today. I hope you did enjoy today's relationship stories. And if you did, you know what to do. Hit that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too. And just a huge thank you for taking the time out of your day to be here. Incredible. Thank you so, so much. And if you'd like to support the channel further, you can by clicking that join button down below and joining through YouTube, or clicking the link in the description and joining through Patreon. Hugely helps out, and I'm very, very thankful to each and every one of you. Now, I will see you soon. If you enjoyed the content, of course. Much love to you. Have a great day, and just see you next time. Goodbye.